It was the Emmy-winning juggernaut that brought must-see TV to a whole new audience.
Friends was a clarion call for a generation.
And the series that stayed in the top 10 for a decade created 6 hugely talented household names.
The cast was everything. We could have written 30 minutes of German gibberish and 20 million people would have watched.
America loved those people. They cared about all 6 of them.
These are the exclusive and definitive interviews on how this massive sitcom was created. And we reveal how several of the friends you came to love were almost played by different actors.
It was a bit more of a leap of faith, just betting on that star power that you sensed was there.
It was electrifying.
There's only a handful of shows that fit in that category.
From the pilot that was initially deemed weak to exploding on the cover of Rolling Stone, this is the story behind Friends. In the fall of 1993, Friends, one of the most beloved and popular sitcoms in television history, was born. And the following year, it grew into must-see TV.
This is actually the pitch document from what was called Insomnia Cafe, Tuesday, December 7th, 1993. This is a show about 6 people in their 20s who hang out at this coffee house. It's about searching for love, commitment, and security, and a fear of love, commitment, and security. It's about friendship, because when you're young and single in the city, your friends are your family. As much as our programming had already reflected the baby boomers, we really looked to Gen X and said, well, what about them?
I happened to be fortunate enough to be in the demo, and so the show sounded great to me. It fit in with Mad About You and the other things that were going on at the time.
During this time, one of the actors who had become a pivotal friend was pitching a similar idea.
I do remember that Matthew Perry was sort of trying to create his own shows at that point.
Matthew's idea of a 20-something sitcom never got off the ground, but the show from Dream On creators Marta Kaufman and David Crane that would become Friends sparked interest at Warner Brothers Television.
As I was hiring our new head of comedy, a gentleman by the name of David Janilari, and he's an important part of this whole story, the first thing he said to me is, we have to sign Kaufman and Crane. And I didn't know who they were. I was running Warner Brothers Television. They had 2 ideas for shows. One was Friends, and the other was a high school comedy. The irony is, Fox wanted to buy Friends, and they would have had first shot at it, except they didn't want to put up enough money to get it. And by the way, it was about $150,000. So they ended up getting the high school comedy, which ended up going to pilot and disappearing. And we took Friends over to NBC, and we got a deal for it. There aren't too many where you look back and say, gee, if I would have made that, the entire history of the network may have been different.
David and Marta had this wonderful pitching style where they would finish each other's sentences, but not in a way that felt contrived or studied, and they were just strong characters.
I'm falling out of my chair laughing and entertained at their perspective and what they want to do with the show. It was a pretty easy yes. I was in love with the show from the pitch.
Marta Kaufman and David Crane brought in Kevin Bright, former executive producer on their series Dream On, to help develop the new show. The trio's original pitch for Insomnia Cafe was quite different from what Friends would eventually become. At first, the show had only 4 leads and didn't feature the pair who would become the TV super couple of the 90s.
When we were developing the show, we thought it was going to be Monica and Joey, honestly.
When we pitched the show to NBC, we didn't mention Ross and Rachel. We didn't know about it. And then we started writing, then we went, wait a minute, this is really cool.
In terms of Chandler and Phoebe, the other 4 were going to be series regulars, and I think Chandler and Phoebe were going to be recurring.
But that idea changed once casting got underway.
When we got Matthew and Lisa, that we realized that this really was a 6-hander, not a 4-hander with 2 supporting characters.
Agents were eager to get their clients auditions for the exciting new project. And in early 1994, hundreds of actors and actresses were seeking auditions for Friends.
There was heat. The agents were just chomping at the bit. You must see my client.
It was a hot script around town. Everybody wanted to get in on it, and the casting director spent a lot of time seeing a lot of people.
We really didn't go after television stars because television creates stars. And certainly when you have this young a population, we didn't expect that we would be putting household names out there. But a lot of actors wanted these roles.
I liked the situation we were in where we had the 6 leads and they were virtual unknowns. To the public, they were unknown. To all of us casting people, they were known.
The first actor cast was David Schwimmer. Creators had the former Wonder Years star in mind when writing the character of nerdy paleontologist Ross Geller.
Martin and David, they loved David Schwimmer. They loved his work, and they wrote it for him, not with a deal, not with any kind of commitment.
When the producers came in to first talk casting, they mentioned David Schwimmer.
David Schwimmer had already worked with TV, legend Henry Winkler in a show called Monty.
He'd done Hill Street Blues, and everybody loved him, and he was sort of the first no-brainer.
But the theater actor was initially reluctant to take on the role of Ross.
I was really excited that they had this part for him and that they wanted him. That was the good news. The tougher news was that he was in Chicago and not excited to do another show.
Ultimately, with some romancing, David agreed that maybe this was the show that he should come back to television for.
I think he thought he was done with TV. And thankfully, he realized, no, not quite.
His agents had to really talk him through that. We had a very hard time putting the deal together. We finally did, and everybody was happy. And there's nobody else that could have played that role. I'm totally confident of that.
Schwimmer went at it in the most intellectual fashion, very literate, really smart, wonderful with context.
Second to be cast was Lisa Kudrow as the eccentric Phoebe. The actress had tried out for Roz on Frasier, but didn't make the final cut.
Lisa Kudrow was in Frasier. That didn't work. That wasn't the right chemistry. We got rid of her, brought Perry Gilpin in there, so she wouldn't have been available for Friends if that hadn't happened.
When the producers came in to talk casting, they did mention that they thought of Lisa Kudrow for the part on Friends, and we were all enthusiastic about her.
Lisa Kudrow was playing Ursula, the waitress, on Mad About You. And then she came in and she read for Phoebe, and that was it. Brilliant and wonderful.
I saw her at the Groundlings. And I knew the waitress character, Ursula, that she did. I had her on Mad About You.
She auditioned for the part, and there was really no competition. It was hers for the taking. And there was never any regrets or any thought of anybody else that could have been Phoebe.
Lisa Kudrow was least like the character. She did not seem at all strange or neurotic, and she just was a very good actress.
I would trust her to pull off a sensational comedic performance in her style because she has mad skills. Just crazy skills.
Like, she could talk about she was homeless as a kid and people died around her, and you'd laugh. Like, why? That's crazy that she could pull that off.
And then he killed himself. And then I found aromatherapy. So believe me, I know exactly how you feel.
David Crane actually said, well, maybe we use her history as an advantage. I went to Danny Jacobson, who is the executive producer and creator of Mad About You, and asked his permission, and he said yes.
The unorthodox situation opened the door for Kudrow to play estranged twin sisters Ursula and Phoebe on Friends.
How'd you know I was coming? Twin thing.
It allowed us to have moments where Ursula from Mad could also appear on Friends.
We loved when she played the twins on the show.
Phoebe, just in her head, was some melody that only she heard, and it was hilarious and delightful to watch her.
Hello, you're Nick Jericho.
Yes.
Good, I'm Dr. Fiona Wallace. It's nice to meet you. You're very handsome.
Oh, thank you. Not so bad yourself. When she called me and asked me, it was absolutely. Well, no, you asked me at that Showtime party, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I said, would you ever? And you went, yeah. But,
10 cocktails in, I said, yeah!
I know. I'm getting divorced myself right now.
That
So
sucks.
I think there were problems from the start that I just didn't see.
Well, you don't have a penis. It's just this sort of like nice fit. You know what I mean? It's like old chums. I said it.
You said chums. Good fake out. No one's going to know what that means.
Wow, I'm almost a good luck charm for you.
Web therapy.
The pilot set up the on-again, off-again relationship that defined the entire decade of the series.
The pilot was always about Ross. When Rachel walked in there in a wedding gown, Ross had always loved her. That was always part of the mythology of the group.
I just want to be married again.
Ross having his marriage just falling apart, and Rachel having just walked out and said, I don't want to commit to this marriage, I'm looking at the future. And both of those souls were a bit damaged.
The moment at the end of the pilot where he actually says, can I maybe ask you out sometime?
But do you think it would be okay if I asked you out sometime, maybe?
Yeah. Maybe.
They were so wonderful in that moment, and that's when I think we knew, oh, this is something really great.
She was kind of going through a big life change and had almost married somebody she didn't like, and we all knew that Ross was right for her, but it was going to take her a while to see it.
Are they attracted to each other or not? What's in their history? Is this unrequited love or not? And we got a hook in our mouth.
My time as a executive, there was a handful of shows where you left the taping and you just knew it was something special. You got in your car and probably got a little emotional because you knew it was different.
It was truly a wonderful, wonderful pilot. You know, it did what you wanted pilots to do. They were able to give these characters great dimension, and you left the pilot enjoying all 6 people, really knowing all 6 people, and having a great time.
Though the pilot was a success, one storyline caused concern among the top brass at NBC.
In the pilot, Monica sleeps with Paul, the wine guy.
Morning. Good morning.
Morning. Morning. Morning, Paul.
Hello, Paul.
Hi, Paul, is it?
There was a lot of controversy within the executive ranks at NBC that this was inappropriate, and we would hate Monica for basically having a one-night stand. We had the NBC research department put together a survey of everybody that was at the audience run through, asking them what they thought about this decision that Monica makes to sleep with Paul the wine guy. There was enough information in the research that we were allowed to tell that story.
In addition to the Monica and Paul relationship, there were other issues that arose with the new sitcom.
We loved the pilot. Then the research came in, and the research called it a high week.
But there were people that felt like we were getting away from the brand that NBC was trying to be, which was family comedy.
There was some discussion of, yeah, let's put a regular series member in as a parent figure, an older cop. And to their credit, Marta and David just said, no, we hate it.
I remember Marta Kaufman saying to me, it's like that one age where young people aspire to it. The people who are in that age are incredibly self-indulgent and love to think about it. And everyone older looks back on it with great nostalgia.
It was the new era of TV. Every generation has its own show that it latches onto.
A well-known NBC executive said, you know, I don't think this coffee shop idea is going to work. Can it be in a diner like Seinfeld? Bright Kaufman Crane said, no, it has to be in a coffee shop, and they stood up for their thing, and obviously that was an important part of the show.
Our spirits were dampened by research, took a deep breath and said, it's a Thursday night comedy.
And obviously it was important that we get that 8:30 slot on NBC, you know, in front of Seinfeld and after Mad About You.
And then the show went on the air, and I remember white-knuckling it through November. I mean, it was falling off 3-4 SharePoint from Mad About You, from its lead-in, and nothing was certain.
One person who never doubted the sitcom was pilot director James Burrows.
You know, there's a famous trip to Vegas that I took with them. At dinner, I said, this is the last time you are going to be anonymous. I knew. This is it. It's over.
He knew before anybody else knew. And I think that he was able to give them a lot of sage advice about how to navigate this overnight success.
He saw that there was something special happening here pretty early on.
During its first season, Friends became a top 10 show, and fans became invested in the 6 fresh-faced stars.
Everybody cared about Ross and Rachel. I remember suddenly being in restaurants and sitting at tables and listening to people talking about Rachel and Ross all around me. It was a palpable change that something was happening. I mean, it's the only time I've, as an executive or producer, been through that, where you felt it like that.
It was just a special show all the way around. You had an all-star team in every phase of it.
They cared about each other, and that's why they were able to become a family.
We did well in season 1, and it was really the summer after the first season where reruns were being gobbled up. I went, oh, this is a soap opera. This is a brilliant 20-something soap opera, and it's really funny.
Coming up, Friends creates a fan frenzy.
It was closer to Beatlemania than it was like your average hit show.
Plus,
she was so nervous. My hand was gangrene from the grip she had on my hand.
We'll tell you which A-list guest star was overwhelmed by her stint on the hit show. That and more when the story behind Friends continues. Welcome back to the story behind Friends. By its second season in 1995, Friends went from being a top 10 sitcom to a massive pop culture phenomenon.
By the time everybody came back for the top of season 2, the candle had been lit.
For the first season of the show, we were just, our heads were down, and we were just kind of trying to get the work done. We were working crazy hours. And that summer, we kind of came up for air and looked around and went, oh my God, this is huge.
I remember running into Jen and David, and I was with my boyfriend, and he was like, who are those guys? And I said, oh, they're on a show I'm working on, you know, and of course, like a year later, they couldn't go out in public.
You're always pleasantly surprised when it has that level of success, but it certainly wasn't a shock. You know, you didn't say, why is this happening? You sort of knew it fairly early on that you had something special.
I think the verification of we're a hit came when we made the cover of Rolling Stone. Like, how cool was that?
Somewhere during the first season of Friends, I started telling Rolling Stone that I thought this show was going to be something we should cover because it was going from a hit show to a phenomenon. My Friends cover, I think, probably was the best-selling cover I ever worked on.
The phenomenon of Friends, I believe, changed comedy on television at the time.
It was like, look out, we're on top of the world.
I remember going to Chicago when they did Oprah at the end of the first season, and it was like traveling with a band, except if you travel with a band, it's generally girls around 19, 20 throwing themselves at you. Everybody threw themselves at the Friends.
You can't pass a magazine, and they're there on the cover.
No TV show ever sold magazines like Friends Cast.
The first kind of serious encounter I ever had with the Friends cast was doing a People magazine cover toward the end of their first season. You know a show has really made it when it's not just a thing that you go and you sit and watch. It's a thing that you talk about when you're at lunch. It's a thing you see everywhere on the street. Out of the 6 members of Friends, the one that seemed to skyrocket the most, at least in the initial stages, was Jennifer Aniston.
For some reason, the hairdo, the Rachel, everything went under the microscope, and everyone wanted to be her.
Well, that was a byproduct. That was never intended. I look back at the hair now and go, really?
There's only a handful of shows in history that have done that. You know, the wardrobe, the hairstyles, the music.
That theme song, you couldn't escape it anywhere.
I think Friends might be the first sitcom to spawn a haircut. I think there was a period in 1990-something where every woman in the world had the Jennifer Aniston hairstyle, and then I think Jennifer Aniston got bored of it, so she had to mix it up.
Every morning they come in and the night before was a nightmare because of the people at the door, the cameras in the face. And Jennifer wore her heart on her sleeve, and it bothered her. But then you rally and you do your work.
And then she ended up meeting a gentleman known as Brad Pitt. You had America's sweetheart with you know, the handsomest man in the face of the earth.
When Jen first started to go out with Brad Pitt, he would often visit her backstage, and this really big security guard came down and said, you'll all have to clear the area. Mr. Pitt is coming down for some appetizers. And just then he came down the stairs and he was like, you know, called off the guy and was like super friendly and was like, no, I don't need private appetizers. It's all completely fine.
Jennifer Aniston, God bless her, just knew how to take all the drama and turn it into comedy. Unique.
Though Aniston was an immediate breakout star, all 6 cast members became famous worldwide, and they all became close behind the scenes.
I think it was Matthew Perry who said to me, fairly early on they realized, we're playing these long-time, lifelong friends. We better really get along.
People always used to ask, are the friends in real life? And it's like, yeah. I mean, I think you can tell now, 20 years later, they all still hang out together.
That was one of the many things that worked about Friends, is people believed in this friendship.
The bonds they created in the very beginning, that those bonds were lasting.
To me, the Friends cast were not so much like a TV cast as a band. They were a major band for a decade, and they got along better than any band I ever was on the road with.
I think the friendships amongst the cast actually got stronger because they were having this shared experience that nobody else on earth but these 6 people could relate to.
There wasn't a single person in the cast that hadn't been toiling away at this for a while. You weren't dealing with people that went from, you know, getting off the bus in Los Angeles to walking onto the Friends stage.
They were nice, normal people, and then you'd go backstage and there'd be a party after the shoot with Brad Pitt.
The party was often on stage as well, as Friends tapings were one of the hottest tickets in town for fans.
A shoot night for Friends could go on 6, 7, 8 hours. Insane. But they were having so much fun. It was so the place to be.
We did a lot of storylines with a lot of costume changes and all those things. You know, they took a lot of time. And if a joke didn't work, we did not move on until we had a joke that we liked and the audience responded to.
I used to be jealous of my friends at Frasier because they would drink wine and walk around during the tapings, and we were all, you know, on our feet. Like any moment we were giving notes or trying to, you know, pitch a new joke.
If we got finished at 2 in the morning, if at midnight some people got tired and began to leave, there was a line of no less than 200 people out the stage door waiting to come in.
Friends even impacted the way 20-somethings spoke, with the peculiar speech patterns of Chandler Bing.
Okay, I don't sound like that. That is so not true.
Honestly, that's Matthew Perry. That's how Matthew Perry talked before the show started. It's how he continues to speak, probably less now than he did then.
God bless the great Jimmy Burrows. He let Matthew find that character and impose nothing on him. Nobody speaks on the wrong syllable like Matthew did.
When you write scripts, sometimes you underline words you want people to emphasize. Never underlined a word from Matthew, never. Never, because he'll decide what he wants to emphasize, and his choice will be better than yours.
He had that voice of Chandler. He had it down.
In 1996, Friends was part of one of the biggest nights in TV history when it followed the Super Bowl with a 2-part episode.
It was an absolute 1-hour fantastic Friends. And it was the highest rated hour in the history of television behind the Super Bowl. And anyone who didn't know the series before, well, we got even more viewers after that.
The hugely rated guest star-laden Super Bowl episodes garnered director Michael Lembeck an Emmy.
The one with the Super Bowl was particularly fun because we had Miss Roberts coming off of Pretty Woman. She rehearsed all week and had a blast, but the night of, she was so nervous. She had so much performance anxiety. And I remember her standing next to me, gripping my hand was gangrene from the grip she had on my hand.
They did things that your normal sitcom doesn't get to do because it was not your normal sitcom. It was closer to Beatlemania than it was like your average hit show.
Still to come.
Somebody at the network should sit down and analyze why are they watching it.
Find out why this 90s phenomenon still thrives today. And up next, we reveal the mistake that created one of the most memorable moments in 10 years of Friends.
It was kind of because David up his line.
The story behind Friends will be right back. Welcome back to the story behind Friends. The on-again, off-again Ross and Rachel romance played out over the course of the series, with a pivotal moment in the One with the Prom video where they share their first kiss.
They did Ross and Rachel, you know, on and off through the entire show, right to the end, and they did it beautifully.
I stole this idea from Fiddler on the Roof, where there's a point in that story where the young student crosses the dance floor. I was literally kind of trying to come up with something that could articulate Ross and Rachel's coming together in a similar way. So basically that cross is direct from Fiddler on the Roof.
I remember when, after the video was over and Rachel got over and kissed Ross for the first time, Jimmy Burrows called it the longest cross in sitcom history.
That episode also gave fans an insight into younger versions of the characters with a flashback.
That cast loved costume dramas. They love to put on a wig and different costumes and be other people or them as young or old. They love doing that stuff.
The relationship intensified when Ross was about to marry Emily, but mistakenly says Rachel instead, in the season 4 cliffhanger.
That whole summer, that drove everybody to talk about Friends, and it was a brilliant cliffhanger.
We knew Rachel was going, and I remember we were banging our heads against what was she going to do? Like, was she going to stop it? It kind of ended up being David Schwimmer's thing. His line was to come in and say, Emily, the cab is downstairs waiting, something like that. And he walked in and said, Rachel, the cab is downstairs. Okay, sorry, let me take it again. And he went out. And I remember I was standing next to David Crane. I said, that's it.
Hi, Ross. Take the Emily. Take the Rachel.
The putting together of that romance and that story was just incredible.
Ross's wedding in London revealed the global impact of Friends.
It was crazy. There were just crowds everywhere. We would go places on a bus, and people would, like, wave to us. We weren't even the cast.
One coupling fans didn't see coming was Monica and Chandler, who got together in an eye-popping scene.
I'm getting married today! Yeah, you are!
You think you know I was here?
Matthew Perry and I had a bet of how long the audience would react, how long that reaction would last before they could actually start saying their lines again. And I said something like 25 seconds, which is a huge pause in a show, 25 seconds. And he said, no way, longer. He won. He was right. It was even longer.
How it played out over time was incredibly believable, and they had great chemistry together. And all the later Chandler-Monica episodes, I just think were great.
Some of them knew that Chandler and Monica were sleeping together, and the whole thing with Phoebe and trying to get Chandler to kiss her and all that stuff, and just very ingenious storytelling.
The plan was to break them up in November sweeps. So they were going to date for like 3 months, 2 months. And that obviously changed.
Then he got involved with Monica, and suddenly Chandler became a leading man, and it was a really exciting turn for the whole show.
With the sitcom a hugely rated hit, it was only natural that the stars of Friends would present a unified front both on and off the set.
Schwimmer, with his theater background, said, I don't think money should be a part of our equation at all.
It was an ensemble. I liked the fact that they all felt that they were equals, you know, that this is important, that they all get paid the same, they all get treated the same.
The cast held firm as a group during salary negotiations, going from between $20,000 to $40,000 per episode in season 2 to $1 million per show during the final 2 seasons.
On the management side, you don't like those numbers increasing the way they do, but you know what? The studio made money, the network made money, the actors made money, the producers made money. When you get a hit of that size, everybody wins, and everybody should win.
It really did, I think, kind of change things a little bit about how Hollywood pays its actors.
Thank you, David Schwimmer.
Coming up.
Will they ever get together and play those parts again?
I know America would love it.
They've guest starred on each other's recent projects, but will this full ensemble ever reunite? And we reveal how this simple series forever changed sitcoms, and how it still impacts TV today.
And they had a big creative meeting and what's your favorite show, and you can imagine what they all mostly talked about.
Welcome back to the story behind Friends. In its 8th season, in the wake of the tragedy of September 11th, 2001, Friends became the #1 show in America.
And there was a hunger for all kinds of things that, you know, just made you feel a little more comfortable.
And they wanted something familiar. They wanted something that wasn't complicated. You could escape for a half an hour and hopefully laugh. People just went to Friends.
The sitcom won its only Outstanding Comedy Emmy in 2002.
When there were 40 million people watching and choosing what to watch, they watched the show with the kids that they liked.
Originally, Friends was scheduled to conclude at the end of season 9.
I think we really believed when we started season 9, this was the end. And it wasn't until sort of the 11th hour when NBC stepped in and suddenly, oh, wait, we're going to do a season 10?
And at the end of its 10th season, Friends left the air with the last one on May 6, 2004, with all 6 characters moving on with their lives.
Some shows, when they do their finale, it's a real high concept thing. They're away from their world. They're in the future. For us, it was very important that it really feel like the show that people have loved 10 years.
Nobody envisions a show going 10 years, so no. I mean, you can hope and wish. We wanted it to go on forever, but you can't.
They could have kept going for years. And I think some of them expressed they wish they had.
With a life in syndication, Friends has never left TV and continues to find new audiences.
In its 4th or 5th generation of new people finding it, and they're watching it, somebody at the network should sit down and analyze, why are they watching it?
It does extremely well in syndication. It does extremely well all over the world. It has a universal appeal, and that's why it'll continue for a long, long time.
And though it's been over a decade since Friends aired its finale, the cast members often get together to appear on each other's projects. But a full reunion of the 6 seems quite unlikely.
Will they ever get together and play those parts again? No. And they shouldn't.
I know America would love it, but I respect that, you know, like we're not having a cheesy Christmas special with the Friends.
I think the legacy of Friends is a very simple one. It made a lot of people happy. It made 6 or maybe 30 people really rich.
Friends was a clarion call for a generation that had been ignored on mainstream broadcast television.
That you can still turn that show on and it doesn't feel dated and you still laugh at the jokes and you care about the people. It's kind of extraordinary.
That's a good feeling that maybe we had some impact on the American public like that.
It'll be considered one of the greatest comedies ever written. It will be a show that's on the air like 20 years from now. There's only a handful of shows that fit in that category.
In the history of television, I don't think we're ever going to see another phenomenon like Friends was.
That's their legacy.
That wraps up the story behind Friends. For more about all your favorite shows and stars, be sure to log on to PopTV.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.